Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We got our first 2 hats mailed to us. Remember, you can mail hats in, we'll put them on the show. Today we're going to have a great show. It's about early term abortions in beef cattle with Dr. Kelli Almes. We're going to talk about a lot of good things about what can cause them, some things you can do to prevent them, and if you're going to take samples, what you might send into the D-Lab. Thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for sending your hats. We'll see you here after the message.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Dr. Almes, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, this is Dr. Kelli Almes. She is a pathologist here at Kansas State University's Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, where she is working with many different diseases, many different types of animals, producers, different settings. But today we're going to talk about early term abortion in cows.
That's right, Dan. So we see a lot of mostly late term abortions at the diagnostic lab, but obviously there's a lot that don't end up with a full-size calf that we see in the lab, but there's still a lot of things that we try to talk about with producers. And one of the things that we really struggle to talk to veterinarians and producers about is non-infectious causes of abortion.
Okay.
Everybody wants there to be an infectious disease, therefore a treatment and something to do to prevent it.
Yeah, give me a vaccine, right? Let's manage this with a bottle.
Right. So unfortunately, in the majority of abortion cases, that's not really what happens, especially the early ones. So a lot of heat stress. As we heat up this time of year, transport, moving to pasture, moving around, vaccination, inappropriate vaccination, which does result in somewhat of an infectious cause, but really it's a management issue. Mm-hmm. And then something that it's not infectious to the calf, but anaplasmosis, just causing systemic disease in the cow, resulting in a lot of early term abortion or embryonic loss.
So, in other words, we're talking about stress for the most part,
Yep.
Whether it's stress on the cow and things that farmers and ranchers could be doing to prevent stress will
Yep.
probably help keep those pregnancies.
Yep. Proper nutrition, another big one, trace minerals, things like that.
Absolutely. Well, when we start to talk about, obviously with the heat stress and moving cattle, then probably looking at thermal heat index and things that you're going to be able to measure instead of transporting those cows on a hot day. Maybe we're going to look to move those cattle when it's a little bit cooler, when we're not building heat load in them.
Yep. And there's been a lot of studies out there that say that even prolonged, the heat doesn't have to happen right then. The eggs are lower quality in the ovary even before breeding from heat stress. So you can see sort of long-term effects from that. It doesn't have to be an immediate thing.
Okay. So how do we determine some of these, non-infectious? What do you do as a pathologist working through some of these cases?
So in terms of management and the non-infectious causes, it's really a lot more in the hands of the practitioner, your local veterinarian. It's really hard for us to identify those factors. A lot of times we don't get a really extensive history. So it's really important for the producer to work with their veterinarian so that they know their vaccination schedule, they're familiar with their farm, the way they move their cattle, where they have them, how they're housed, the things that we're not going to find out about here.
And probably you're going to get some samples from a veterinarian.
Yep.
There's nothing going on with a pathogen.
Yes.
So now we go back to, okay, so what are some of the non-infectious?
Exactly.
And let's backtrack through the case.
Exactly.
But obviously, prevention is the key. And when we start to look at the time of branding and turnout, and it seems like, man, I can't believe how far we truck some of these cows to grass. We just need to work together.
Yep.
Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Dr. Almes about maybe some of the infectious causes. I didn't mention, we have our hats up here. We got our first people to send in some of the hat. Rezac Land and Cattle Company and Hoxie Feedlot, along with the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. So anyway, send us your hat at the address below. More from DocTalk after these messages.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com. Valley Vet Supply.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Kelli Almes. We're at Kansas State University in the College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is one of the pathologists here at the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. So when you and your veterinarian, or if you're a veterinarian, you send your cases in, this is obviously one of the experts that you want handling your case. And we're talking about early term abortions, and great information on the non-infectious, which we don't think about very often. We just ram and jam and got to get the job done. Now let's talk about some of the things that maybe are more what we think about.
Infectious, yeah. So bovine viral diarrhea, BVD virus, so there's a big one, right? So early infection in utero can cause embryonic loss. And a lot of times in the things that we're talking about with early loss, sometimes we don't even know that it's happened until later on down the road. So it's really hard to diagnose at that point as well. So that makes everything a little bit more difficult. Campylobacter, not a super common cause in beef cattle, but we can see it. And it usually causes infection in the cow, which then causes her to lose the calf really early. Leptospirosis, another one that usually causes just infertility or poor conception rates, maybe not so much an abortion after the fact, but they just never get pregnant or they fail to settle. And then trick, obviously, which is a really big one, being a reportable disease. And we've had a few new counties identified within the state recently. So those are the four big infectious ones, really, that we think about with early loss. But then you can always have sporadic fungal and bacterial infections that there's really no way to predict or that those are going to happen.
Right. A lot of times that'll be weather, weird weather patterns for your region or something like that. So talk to me a little bit about the what are some of the clinical signs? Is it just basically open cows when we go to preg check? Or?
Yeah, open cows, and then I guess the even worse than that is if maybe you don't do a good job of preg checking. So maybe they haven't identified who's open or not open. And you just have a long calving period. So you have cows calving quite a ways after you should be done. So that's really kind of another common sign to say that they were probably pregnant once, lost the calf, got pregnant again, and now you've extended your calving season out that year. So,
obviously working with your veterinarian is extremely important, but even this preg checking can lead you to an earlier understanding so that you maybe can manage some of the risk financially of a prolonged calving season that's coming.
Exactly. And without, and like I mentioned, with BVD, so if there's infection early and they lose the calf, if you don't identify that until the end of the season, you're probably going to have almost an impossible time identifying what the agent was if there was an infectious agent, because it's come and gone in the cow by that time, and so you're not going to be able to find it.
Yeah, and so I think that, too, with some of these new technologies, not trying to take away a job, but new technologies of blood pregnancy tests and things to that nature, we might be able to start getting even earlier pregnancy tests in cows. They're doing it with even a milk sample or a blood sample, either one. So there might be some things as you're pulling them off of summer grass that you can do. Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to work with your veterinarian on prevention of having these types of issues. You're watching DocTalk. We're glad you joined us, and we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back to spend some more time with you.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk. Have you asked yourself, how can I help provide relief to wildfire victims? Well, you can go to the Ashland Community Foundation, or you can go to the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation and make monetary gifts. Another way, you can buy this beautiful print that was painted by Dr. Eva Gardner of the Gardner Angus Ranch of Ashland and Clark County area before the fire. This painting will be sold through the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation, and all proceeds will be provided to victims of the wildfire.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
I'm Dr. Kip Lukasevich with Production Animal Consultation. Today's BQA Tip of the Day is proper implanting technique. It's a really important implant that we give these animals at arrival or delayed implanting, whichever it may be, is that we do a proper job of doing it. Implants today give you a rate of return of about $30 to $60 and sometimes up to $80 pending the implant. And so it's just really important that we get that implanting correctly. It's really important that we have disinfect the ear on arrival. So if we have a clean bucket for just an initial wash, and then disinfection for just a final scrub, and then we actually have our implant gun where we have the disinfectant that we should always change that disinfectant every 200 head or in between pins and keep that fresh. And then disinfect your needle each time in between each animal. If you skip off the ear, also disinfect that needle. Don't just go on an implant. And so that's your tip of the day.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
We do business with Blueville because of the quality of their work. It is excellent quality, and because they make a commitment to their customers.
We enjoy the benefits of hiring a good company to help us maintain this home.
We will always do business with Blueville. We have for many, many years, and there's no reason for us to look for any other service.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Kelli Almes here with me, Dr. Dan Thomson, and we're at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is one of our pathologists at the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, seeing a lot of cases. And so when we think about sending cases into the diagnostic lab, because that's one thing I think that we don't get enough done, is that we could glean so much information to prevent the issue through doing the proper diagnosis. My dad used to say that it was easier to sell a vaccine for a few $1,000s than to sell a diagnosis for a few dollars. And so we've got to get back to that. So what are you looking for in these types of cases?
So probably the one thing that's best when we're talking early loss, so we don't have a calf to do testing on. So if it's later on down the road and you have a fetus to bring in, or your veterinarian's going to take samples and send those in for you, that's a little bit easier to deal with. Really, some of the things you can do with early loss, obviously trick testing of bulls, which is required. if you move or sell, all of those different stipulations. But we do have a serology panel. So there are a lot of places that will have what they call a bovine abortion panel, taking into account the common agents. The problem with that is we typically either don't identify it early enough to get the sample when we need to, or we only get one sample. And one sample doesn't give you a lot of information. We really need paired serum samples 3 to 4 weeks apart so that we know if they've had a rise or a fall in titer, depending on when you identified that they have lost it.
So let's go back to the titer. The reason why we do the titer, or the reason why we do it 2 to 4 weeks apart, is that there's a delayed response. So when you say serology, you're really measuring, were they infected by something that caused an immune response?
Yep.
And it takes that 2 to 4 weeks before you can measure that change.
Yep.
So you can do the test at the time of the abortion and have really low antibody or titers.
Yep.
But if you wait 2 to 4 weeks, then that'll show up.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the opposite way of that to look at it would be that if they didn't identify exactly when the abortion happened, you could take that initial sample, and if there was a high titer, then 2 to 4 weeks later, you can see if it falls. So you can see if they had built it before or if they're building it after. So it's kind of if you don't know exactly the timeline of things, sometimes that works out.
Well, I think that's important to know. And I think serology is an important tool that we can use in these types of cases.
Yeah.
And we tend to use it more on them.
Yeah.
Other things as far as samples coming into you, or things that you see that you don't like, or things that we got to make sure that we do correctly to get the best answer.
So if we're talking about a full abortion workup, we really have sort of a set of tissues that we want, and things we don't need, I guess we could look at it that way. So we really, in a full workup, like to have a set of fresh tissues from the fetus and a set of fixed tissues and formalin from the fetus. And the reason we like to do that is because, yes, we have all of our great, PCR testing and cultures and all of those types of things, but there's still some things that we need to look under the microscope to decide if there's a lesion or not. So we really like to have those fixed tissues as well. Bacterial culture on abomasal fluid is the number one thing that we probably don't get. And if there's going to be a bacterial cause there, and or sometimes fungal, that's where we're going to find it. Yep.
Well, I think it's important that you work with your veterinarian, get the right set of them. Obviously, you're providing CE to practitioners for tissues.
We have it posted on our website all the time, and we try to get that out there as much as we can.
Perfect. Well, folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about preventing these abortions with Dr. Kelli Almes. More after these messages.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help? How can we help?
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And said, well, we'll have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. And I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio and gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook or Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson and Dr. Kelli Almes. We're from Kansas State University at the College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is a pathologist in our veterinary diagnostic laboratory. And you have some numbers. We always like numbers.
Numbers are good. So yeah, we looked at all the bovine abortion submissions from the calendar year of 2016, which doesn't really go along with calving season, but it's one of the best ways we have to search the data that we have. And it's very cyclical, the numbers of submissions we get each year, and a lot of that has to do with the price of cattle. So if they're worth more diagnostics are typically done. We had quite a few submissions last year, over 150 bovine abortions, and we got a diagnosis, a definitive diagnosis, so we are comfortable that that's the exact cause in 55 of those. So it's hovering between 30 and 35%.
That's actually pretty good.
About the average of diagnostic labs, yeah. So last year, like I said, we had 55, and bacterial and viral were the highest 2 causes, with IBR being up there. And we don't get a lot of follow-up sometimes, but we're very suspicious a lot of times due to the little history that we do get is that it was potentially inappropriate vaccine administration during pregnancy. But we don't know for sure. A lot of times, like I said, we don't get that great of follow-up.
And that gets into that, we're talking about prevention too. That gets into that killed versus modified live on bred cows and things to that.
Right, or just making sure you're following the timeline of administration for the modified live. If you read and you use it properly, then you should be fine. But it's the ones that if they were heifers, especially, we've seen it a little bit more. So it just depends on.
Talk to your veterinarian.
Yeah.
He or she will know exactly what we're talking about. Always work through them. If you're just going in and buying the vaccine at the farm store and you're vaccinating because you caught them, you might be doing more harm than you're good.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. And then bacterial and, like I said, bacterial and viral are about the same. And last year we kind of saw a mix of bacteria. We had some strep, some salmonella. So like I said, those are the really just sporadic, one at a time sort of thing. So that's not an infectious thing that's going to kind of wipe out much of your herd, but they're still important causes. And it's important to identify what it is to make sure that it's not something infectious that's going to spread.
Yep. And so I take it you're working with veterinarians, you're helping veterinarians, not just in Kansas, but around the region, understand what these abortions are being caused by, providing CE, things of that nature.
Yeah, so we try. We've got some YouTube videos on our website with sample collection. And especially last year, we developed 2 new tests geared towards bovine abortion. We did a PCR panel that's done on tissue. And then we came up with that serology panel, especially for, like we're talking about, the cows that abort early and you don't have the fetus for testing. So we tried to do some email blasts last year, put it up on our website, and just get it out there with some of our outreach activities.
Perfect. Well, thanks for all you do. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about what we do at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.